I want to talk about the fact that through life we have all these twists and turns. We have all these things that happen. We sometimes we're confused, and sometimes we get depressed and feel like it's not working. But today I want to help you understand how much it's working and all the ways that it's working. So I love stories, and so today we're going to go to stories. I know that people learn the most through stories, and so today I will be telling you a story, but it's going to go to the Bible. And Joseph is the story, and Joseph is the son of Jacob. And Jacob has 12 sons. Can you imagine what that must be like? Anyway, the good news is it's all symbolic. So we don't know if he did or not, but anyway, Jehovah shall increase, he shall increase progressively, and that's what Joseph means. Through the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary, we can get those meanings. And so that means Joseph is you, and Joseph is me. And the quality of Joseph within us will continually progress us forward. And so it's like having stepping stones in our life. And we're going to look at what those stepping stones have been. So the other part of this is that his brothers are also symbols within us. Now, I think it's interesting that in the Bible, they talk about 12 disciples of Jesus, 12 tribes of Israel, and 12 sons of Jacob. So there's a lot of continuity in this. But this 12 represents those qualities within us that are developing through life. So Reuben would represent seeing, vision. And we know that when we're very young, we don't always see as what's in front of us. And then as we grow, we see more. We develop a vision. And it's up to us to how we develop that vision. And Simeon represents hearing. And in the beginning, maybe we only hear what's out here. But then as we grow, perhaps we're hearing deeper than that. We're actually hearing from our deeper voice of intuition. Levi represents unity. When all of these things are brought together to work together, Issachar would be hardworking and active zeal. So those things that we're excited about, hopefully we're excited about life and the opportunity. And Naphtali represents strength. And Benjamin represents faith. Now, Benjamin is the last child born, and he represents faith. So who is the father of these folks? The father is Jacob, and he represents I am. So the I am consciousness within is the father of all these various qualities. And it's up to us, and using our own I am, to make use of these qualities and bring them into the highest expression. So Genesis, the glorious story of Joseph, the son of Jacob, and his experience with his brethren unfolds. And we find in that story the progressive stepping stone in the development of consciousness. Because Joseph represents dreamer. And the dreamer within you is your imagination. It's the part of you that dreams beyond where you're at in your life right now. And when we make use of it, there's amazing things that can happen. He also was the favorite son of Jacob. So think about that your imagination, your creative element is the favorite son of I am. So obviously from that, we know that lots of good things are supposed to come from this. So he also was awarded a coat of many colors by his father. And that was an award for being a great son. But it also meant that he in some way had some of these qualities under control or managed. But we'll find out as we go along. So as the story goes along, this quality of imagination is ridiculed often, is it not? Like you're going to the Wright brothers, you're going to fly an airplane, really? Oh, come on. Or maybe you're somebody is saying, I'm going to be an artist. And I go, you can't make money as an artist. And so sometimes we ridicule these qualities of imagination. An example of that would have been Frederick W. Smith, who started FedEx. He was in a college class and he was writing a paper. The paper was to be on a prospective business. And the college professor, he wrote about FedEx, that this is what he wanted to do. And the college professor gave him a very bad grade. He said, why? He said, because it's irrational. It can't be done. So you got a bad grade. And he thought, okay, well, I'll just go do it. And that's exactly what he did. So we all see little FedEx trucks running around all over the place? And have we not all been delivered packages by FedEx? And then, of course, there was a lot of knockoffs after that too. So somebody tries it out and makes it work, and then somebody else says, I'm jumping on the wagon too. Ted Turner was another one who was laughed at. I'm going to do a 24-hour news station, CNN. And they're going, what? Who would want to watch the news 24 hours a day? Unfortunately, there are many people who want to watch news 24 hours a day. So anyway, again, he made his fortune, another fortune, by following his imagination, by being creative. And so that's what Joseph was to his brothers. He was annoying. They were resentful of him. They were jealous because he got a lot of attention, and he was our quality of imagination. And so we want to give that attention. We want to pay attention to it and let it inspire us. So anyway, at some point, Jacob says, run out, go see your brothers. They're tending sheep, and check them and see if they're okay, if they need anything. And so Joseph did that. He went to see his brothers. And at this particular day, they just had enough of it. And so they decided they were going to do away with this guy. In other words, when we are operating from our normal everyday, get through the day, get our jobs done, take care of everything, we don't need this quality of imagination bugging us, right? And so this is the story where they decide it's time to get rid of this guy. So they threw him in a pit. It was actually a cistern, and they're thinking he's gonna die. But Reuben just couldn't take it, and he came back to the pit, and he wanted to get Joseph out of there. A caravan was going by just then, and a caravan with merchants, and the merchants were heading to Egypt. Okay, so it's very important that you understand Egypt. Egypt is sense consciousness. So it's basically operating in the physical world and through our senses. And oftentimes when we operate through our senses, that's when we make some of the biggest mistakes, but we'll talk about that a little bit more. So anyway, so they decided they're going to sell Joseph to this caravan for 20 pieces of silver. So I'm sure there's symbolism to that too, but we're not going to get that far into it. So they also stripped him of his coat, and that sort of symbolizes too, I think, some kind of internalization of these qualities with Joseph, because in each experience that he has, he grows. He grows progressively. He expands progressively, just like you and me. Even though the experience might seem really negative, really crappy, but if we address it, if we work with it, we grow. So anyway, he's headed to Egypt now, and when they get to Egypt, the caravan, he's sold to Potiphar. He's a slave, and Potiphar is he's a representative. He's a chief steward to the Pharaoh, the guy that runs the whole land of sense consciousness is the ego. So he's now working for this guy. And he is so good, and he is so talented. Imagination is so talented that it runs his household, his business, it runs everything. And he is just really looked upon as a favorite employee, slave. So anyway, at some point, he probably expands as far as he can through the situation. And the wife of Potiphar is putting her moves on Joseph. And he's pushing her off, and she gets mad and just tells her husband that he tried to rape her. So then he ends up going to prison. So now from a pit to Potiphar to prison. And what does a prison represent? But the way we imprison ourselves, the way we imprison our imagination, the way we imprison our thought processes, the way we tell ourselves we can't do it or it's not going to work and we don't give it a chance. Or we decide to become addicted to something or other. Or we become compulsive in our activities. And that's how we end up in prison. And every one of us has spent some time there, one way or the other. So then finally, so he runs the prison. The guy that runs the prison says, this guy's got some talent. He's running the prison. So he's running all the prisoners. He's got the whole thing handled. You know, isn't this amazing? Because there's such a light within him. There's such a light within this imagination that people recognize it and go, you're in charge. We've all seen that, I know. There's probably been times when you've been doing something and then it's like, you know, hey, you got it. You're doing it. You're in charge. And I know you've had that experience. Anyway, my son is here. And so he ultimately there's some guys that come to him and say, you know, we've got these dreams we don't understand. And Joseph says, God understands your dream and I will interpret them with God. So he tells them the meaning of the dreams. And those dreams come true. And so it's like, whoa, yeah. Joseph now has reputation, okay? So at this point, the one of the prisoners goes back to the Pharaoh. He was actually the baker for the Pharaoh, and he goes back to the Pharaoh, back to his job to bake. The other guy got killed, by the way. Anyway, which was the dream. So you forgot about Joseph, you know, like we do, we forget. And then at some point, the Pharaoh has these dreams, and it's like, oh my God, he knows they're important. So it's our ego. Can you relate to this? That maybe you had a dream one time and you went, I know that's important. I know I've got to pay attention to that. Anyway, he calls the soothsayer, and he calls the magician, and he calls the various people, and none of them know how to interpret these dreams. So at this point, the baker says, you know what? I know a guy that can interpret the dream. So he brings Joseph to the Pharaoh, the guy that runs the entire land. And so he says, I can help you with your dreams. God will interpret your dreams, and I'll tell you. And this is when he says, you're going to have 7 years of abundance in this land, and then 7 years of famine. And it will be following that. And so the Pharaoh goes, oh, that's the interpretation. That's it. I know it is. So he installs Joseph to be his second in command. Think about it. This is powerful stuff. You know, from being in a pit, second in command to the Pharaoh. And he runs all of Egypt. The Pharaoh basically, you run the place. You get us ready. So 7 years of plenty. He stored the food. He got everything in place so that when we went to the 7 years of famine, and this is how we prepare in life. Sometimes, you know, how many of you prepared for a pandemic? How silly was that? And then here we are, and hopefully you had a few bucks in the bank or something like that. Anyway, so this was all going on, and then back home, Jacob says, you know, we're starving. You guys got to go to Egypt and buy some food. And that's so the sons go to Egypt and buy the food, and they bought the food, and then Joseph saw them. But he didn't introduce himself. He saw them. He was like taken back, as you can imagine. And so he took the money that they used for the food and put it back in their saddlebags along with the food, and they went off. And then when on the way back, the Pharaoh's guards came and got him and said, hey, you stole all this. You stole the money and the silver cup that's in your bag. So basically it was a setup. So he brought all these guys back to where his castle was. I guess he lived in a castle. And he said, I am your brother. I am Joseph. And they're like crying and carrying on like, oh my God, we're so sorry. We're so sorry. We're so sorry. We didn't mean it. We're sorry that we threw you in a pit. We're sorry that we tried to kill you. And this is the part that I love the most. Joseph says to them, I forgive you, because everything that happened was through God. Everything that happened was God's direction. Everything that happened was God guiding us, you, me, everything. Think about that. That is so powerful to me, because when we look at people who maybe we feel has done bad things to us or said bad things, and we say, I forgive you, because even though I may not understand it completely, I know that this is a stepping stone. This is God coming through in some amazing way. So it is through your imagination that you will be freed. And imagination lifts you to a complete different reality and spiritual freedom. And many of you face the same kind of conditions, but in different scenarios. And Joseph, as this exalted being who has grown and expanded through every single situation, is you. We've all grown and expanded through every situation. We've had the opportunity to see ourselves as a victim or a hero. And that's what this is all about. Joseph says, no arrow has been done to me. Arrow is not doing this to me. Arrow has nothing, neither presence nor power in my life. You will prove the omniscience and omnipresence of God, good in its immediate expression now. And that's for each one of us, that we can recognize that error has no meaning, that we are constantly being drawn to exaltation, to something better, to really understanding the God within us. And so that God has gone before you every step of the way and prepared it for you. From the moment you no longer see evil in your circumstances, evil governing you, you are acknowledging God as your moving factor. And you can then, once you do that, you can experience good. Just as everywhere Joseph went, he experienced good. They saw in him something and they said, you're in charge. We're putting you in charge. We're making you the one. So we look at somebody like Nelson Mandela, who went into prison, very angry young man, very angry, violent young man. And he was there 25 years. So what did he do for 25 years? He worked with the prisoners. He was a lawyer. He helped. And he changed himself. And 25 years later, he left prison and he was a kinder, more humble man, but he understood and he had the wisdom to lead a nation. And he's considered one of the great leaders in South Africa. Michael Beckwith is the leader of the Agape Center in California. And he was dealing drugs, got stuck in prison, and he had an epiphany. He said that was the turning point in his life. Think about it, when we're in prison, we're in this place of like, we're doubting ourselves, we're not feeling good about ourselves, we're feeling like we're trapped in some way or other. And then maybe there's an epiphany. It's like, I get it now. I know what I'm to do next. We have to submit to that. We have to be willing to have that come through us. It will come through you. So Michael Beckwith got out and started this Agape Center. He had thousands and thousands of people at the Agape Center. It's a spiritual center that he runs. So during the times of famine, those are the times when we really need to pay attention. That's when we can really reveal what's on the inner. We can reveal that which is there at all times, but maybe now we have a moment to listen. I think during that pandemic, we got quiet again. People got quiet and maybe they started paying attention. This is what Joseph said. Now therefore, be not grieved, nor angry with yourselves, that ye sold me hither. that you got rid of your imagination. For God did not send me before you to preserve life. So now it was not you that sent me hither, but God. And he hath made me a father to Pharaoh, and lord of his house, and ruler throughout the land of Egypt. So what this means then, in the sense consciousness that we live by sometimes, where we think of the next meal and, and how we're gonna spend our time. In the sense consciousness, imagination, creativity took over. It's now running the land. And so that's us allowing that which is greater to come through. So the questions here are, what experiences have transformed you? You can give this some thought later. How has God sculpted you in all of these various experiences? Did you lose your job or get a divorce or get fired or have an addiction of some sort? Was there a death you experienced or an illness? How did it change you? How did it make you better? How did it bring you up? How did it lift you? Did you let it? Because now, in the story that you're living right now, you have the same opportunity. You have the same opportunity. So here's the takeaways. We're always pure. We always are pure. We can let something convince us otherwise, but we can go back to that purity and know that we can climb out of our pit. We can climb out of our self-pity. We can climb out of our prison, and we can allow our mind to expand and grow. That the universe is always abundant and always has your next idea, your next creation. It's always ready for you. It's always ready to show you how to do it. It might mean doing something really ludicrous in your mind. Years ago, I was wondering how I was going to increase my income. I was meditating, and this voice said to me, which is the voice of God, intuition, said, do a sale on readings, on Akashic readings. And I started laughing. I thought, that is so funny. I'm going to do it. And that was a big turning point in my business when I sent out this sale on readings, and it was like a flood of people came in, and many of them became clients. But I thought that was hysterical. But sometimes that's how the ideas come. Can you imagine Wilbur Wright going, yeah, we're going to fly. We're bicycle mechanics, mind you, but we're going to figure out how to fly. And I'm sure that the rest of them are going, ooh, this is Edison when he said, I'm going to invent the light bulb. Well, you've already done it thousands of experiments and none of them will work. Yeah, but I'm going to do it. Now I know a lot of things that don't work, so I'm going to keep going. So they are the ones that let their inspiration, their creativity, their imagination breathe out. We can do the same thing. Within every experience, there is presence. There is the presence of God within every experience. So we get to spend some time contemplating and recognizing what it is. If nothing else, get still and quiet and know that God is with you at all times. Be still and know that I am God. You can be the victim or the hero. You can always move with the process of growth, knowing that there's a next step. What is it? I'm ready. Wait, let's show it to me, and I'll do it. And that's when I got that little inspiration. I went, okay, I'll do it, because I will comply with it, whatever I get. So the symbolism of Joseph and his brothers and their families and their father Jacob all being brought together is the final reconciliation. It's a symbolic in the way that we connect with every part of ourselves and with the God within, and our true I am takes over. And that's what we're about today. So the affirmation is, I put my full faith and trust in God's perfect plan for me. I am so grateful. And now give that to you. And so now we're going to take a few moments and just get quiet. And so we can really absorb the message today. The message is for you. And we take a moment and just breathe. And as we breathe, we bring in this energy of God, this presence of God, and we release it and bring it back again in our breath. And as we breathe, we get quiet and we open up this deep space within. And this space is our stillness, it's our connection to God. And we take a moment and just listen. We might seed it with gratitude. I am so grateful for today. I'm so grateful for this wonderful life and all the opportunities that show up for me, and the love and the friendship, the enthusiasm, the life, the joy, my family, my home, my work, everything. Thank you, thank you. And breathe it in. And we know now that we are in our perfect place. We are leading our perfect life right now. We open to the next step, to the next guidance, to the next inspiration. And this is how we guide our life. We're so grateful. And so you've received this now, and you'll take it with you. And when you're ready, you can take a deep breath and open your eyes, bringing you back to here and now.